Hello and welcome back to Firefly. Today we are rounding up our Stronghold Crusader Definitive Edition feature spotlight series, checking out a few key gameplay improvements. This is essentially everything that we couldn't include in our other videos, which covered AI opponents and new units. But sometimes it's the smaller tweaks that are the most exciting, especially when they're player requests. So we're diving into those today. Now we've got a lot to get through, all of which should make your castle building and besieging better than ever, because that's our speciality. So let's get to it. First of all, some big news, as we can finally confirm that all Crusader Extreme features will be included in Crusader DE, including the epic 10,000 unit cap. As we announced previously, both Tactical Powers and the Crusader Extreme Skirmish Trail are making their return. But after running a few internal tests, we can now also confirm that the 10k unit cap will be making its glorious comeback. This means insane army sizes and powers for your battling and besieging, but only if you want them. Continuing our trend of custom options from Stronghold Definitive Edition, while these features will of course be available in the Extreme Skirmish Trail, there will also be toggleable options in regular skirmish mode. You love customization? We love customization. In terms of visual assets, when our artists first started on Crusader DE, we initially scoped out the project as we did for Stronghold DE. So this meant fully remastered and enhanced environments, buildings, troops, effects, AI visuals, and of course other improved assets. And with the lack of source material this time, in many cases it meant creating them from scratch all over again. After our reveal, however, and the amazing volume of constructive feedback that came with it, we have made time for a few small cosmetic extras to help build out Crusader's historic game world. We have since added imams as a Muslim counterpart for the priest, a unique mosque for the church, and temple guards for the warrior monks. And we have our eye on more of these types of changes, including plans for a few unique placeable Crusader and Arabic-themed aesthetic castle decorations. These will provide the usual fear factor modifiers, while also just looking really nice. As you know, we now have our release date set in stone, so we can't do everything we'd like to do on this front, but know this, we are listening to all your feedback and noting it down for future titles. For the first time ever, extra large maps, also known as 800 by 800s for the more technically inclined players, will be supported in Crusader DE. This is in addition to, and bear with me here, 500 by 500, 600 by 600, 700 by 700, and 800 by 800 maps, way bigger than the previous limit of 400 by 400. It's tiny. Larger maps have been a community request for years at this point, and for good reason. They mean more space for epic sieges, skirmishes, sprawling castle designs, and of course, to spell your name out in pitch and light them up! Between the Oasis mechanic and powerful ranged units, larger maps are more important than ever in Crusader, allowing for longer skirmishes with higher player counts. And that is, without everyone being on top of each other from the very beginning of the game. We are excited to finally bring larger maps to Stronghold and can't wait to see what you do with these humongous landscapes in the map editor. Next, we have the masterful remastering of the Crusader sound waves, courtesy of legendary composer Robert L. Uvino. I wonder what the L stands for. Leonard? Leroy? Let us know what you think in the comments. The much-loved Genie voice lines are being completely redone in English by the OG Genie himself, Rob, which actually brings to mind one of my favorite voice lines ever. Let's hear it.
You are the 8th greatest lord.
We intend Crusader Definitive Edition to fully deliver on its historical atmosphere, and music is a key part of that. With returning voice actors like Robert L. Uvino and Christopher Kent, fully remastered music and extra sound effects, your battles will both look and sound better than ever. Crusader has always been our more competitive branch of Stronghold. So while Stronghold 1 and 2 were more narrative-based games with their own fictional lore and characters, Crusader is more about factual history, skirmish tactics, and multiplayer. When it came to scoping out features for Crusader DE, we thought, what better way to up the ante than with timed leaderboards? So in the final game, your completion times in our Sands of Time trails will be shown against friends, foes, and a whole world of other Stronghold players. We hope this will increase both replayability and intensity in the game's Sands of Time missions. In a segment titled Exploits, Begone! We can confirm that we are indeed combing through the source code of Stronghold Crusader to find and fix certain annoying exploits in the OG game. This currently includes, but is not limited to, tunnelers teleporting around the map, taxing well pot workers even in negative popularity, and placing stockpiles inside AI build areas. With the introduction of new features like leaderboards, the last thing we want is for players to be posting times fueled by such exploits, or gaining an unfair advantage over an opponent in multiplayer who is unaware of tricks like these. Given that we had 16,000 of you playing our first demo the day we released it, we want multiplayer for Crusader DE to thrive, and fixing exploits will help us in that quest. Now, as I'm sure you know, any strategy game worth its salt will put a lot of stock into its user interface. As covered in our recent art and animation deep dive, all screens, icons, toggles, and buttons have been reimagined or enhanced. We've tried to keep the original designs intact, so don't worry, that muscle memory will still work, but just as with the original Stronghold DE, there were some obvious ease of access and general improvements to be made for Crusader. So, whether you're perusing our new trail menus or setting up a skirmish lobby with its fancy new layout and custom options, our remade artwork should further immerse you in the time period and, more importantly, speed up getting into your next medieval conquest. Finally, as we did with Stronghold's Definitive Edition, we're happy to once again announce that Steam Workshop and achievements will be available at launch in Crusader DE. To be honest, this is mainly so we don't deprive our developers of creating questionably comedic, sometimes way too niche puns, and wordplay, but mostly puns.
What would you like to do?
Kill Jester.
Steam achievements and workshop support are being added to increase replayability and, of course, to make the most of our new supported map sizes, allowing you to create huge maps and scenarios in the map editor and share them with your friends. Just like with leaderboards, our aim here is to support the community however we can. So there you have it. That about wraps up our feature Spotlight series for Crusader DE. Thank you so much for watching, and remember there are 2 other videos like this one covering the game's new AI opponents and units in depth. So if you haven't watched those, go check them out. Next up here on YouTube is our co-op content, so make sure you hit subscribe to stay up to date with everything Crusader related ahead of our July 15th, 2025 release date. And of course, to finish, if you haven't already, please wishlist Crusader DE on Steam by following the link in the pinned comment below.